There is one ordinary thing you do every single day that would quietly horrify almost any Japanese person just watching. The strangest part is that most people living in the West have no idea they are doing anything truly wrong. In fact, the cleaner and tidier you believe you are, the more of these mistakes you are making right now. Today, you will discover 7 everyday hygiene habits that Japan quietly considers genuinely unsanitary and even a little bit disturbing. And according to modern science and real laboratory research, Japan turns out to be completely and uncomfortably right about them. Stay with me closely because habit number 4 is honestly the hardest one for most people to accept or believe, and habit number 7 will completely change the way you think about being clean for the rest of your life. So, before we begin, let me explain why Japan sees hygiene so differently from almost every other culture on Earth. This is not about perfectionism, cultural fussiness, or a nation that is simply more sensitive and delicate than everyone else. Japan holds one of the lowest rates of hospital-acquired infection anywhere across the entire modern and developed world today. It also has one of the lowest rates of antibiotic resistance, a crisis quietly threatening hospitals almost everywhere else today. It ranks consistently among the top 5 countries on Earth for public health outcomes measured by the World Health Organization. Researchers who study this pattern for years keep arriving again and again at the exact same surprising and underlying conclusion. It is not the hospitals alone, it is not the doctors alone, and it is not better and modern medicine. It is the small daily habits, repeated quietly and consistently, that stop contamination long before it can ever become illness. Japan does not treat cleanliness as something you do afterward to fix a mess that has already happened around you. It treats hygiene as prevention, built silently into the ordinary texture of a normal day without anyone thinking about it. 7 habits the West has never once questioned, and 7 habits Japan quietly refused to adopt. So let us begin. Habit number 1 happens the very moment you walk through your front door after a long and completely ordinary day. You keep your outdoor shoes on inside your home, walking freely across every floor without a single second of thought. Right now, those same shoes have walked across gas station floors, public restrooms, hospital corridors, and filthy parking lots outside. They carry whatever leaked, spilled, or dried onto pavement where thousands of strangers and cars have passed over the years. Then those shoes walk across the very floors where your children play and where your bare feet wander at midnight, where your dog sleeps, where you sit to stretch, and where you kneel to fold laundry or open a package. Every single step becomes a silent transfer of everything the soul collected outside directly onto your clean indoor living surfaces. A study from the University of Houston found shoe soles carry an average of over 400,000 bacteria each. That is 421,000 bacteria measured on every single square centimeter of an ordinary worn sole. The organisms they identified included dangerous bacteria linked to urinary infections, wound infections, and serious respiratory illness in vulnerable people. And between 90 and 99% of that bacteria transferred straight onto clean indoor flooring on the first contact. Not just a little of it, but essentially almost all of it moving instantly from your sole to your floor. Japan has a dedicated word for the small entryway where every pair of shoes comes off after entering the home. It is called the genkan, a small physical boundary, sometimes just one step down, separating the outside world from inside. It is not a polite suggestion and not a soft preference. It is a firm, unspoken line nobody ever crosses. You do not need to renovate anything, just place a shoe rack and some indoor slippers waiting by the door. Habit number 2 happens quietly in your bathroom, and more specifically, it happens every time you flush your own toilet. In most Western bathrooms, the toilet and the hand washing sink sit together inside one small shared and fully enclosed room. You flush, you walk over, you wash your hands, and you consider the entire bathroom task fully and completely finished. But here is what almost nobody realizes is happening inside that room every single time a toilet is actually flushed. A flush creates what microbiologists call an aerosol plume, a fine, invisible mist of water and tiny microscopic biological particles. It rises from the bowl at the moment of flushing, reaching heights of up to 1.5 meters. Then it hangs, suspended in the bathroom air for several long minutes before slowly settling down onto everything sitting nearby, settling onto the counter, the towel, the soap, the toothbrush holder, and yes, directly onto the bristles of your toothbrush. A 2022 study in physics of fluids used laser imaging to make that invisible plume visible for the first time. It found particles reached the top of the tank within 8 seconds and spread across the room within 60 seconds. Your toothbrush sitting openly beside the toilet is not protected by distance at all. It sits within the danger range. Japan responds with two simple habits the West has mostly never adopted, and the first one is closing the lid. In Japan, the toilet lid is always closed before flushing, every time. Not sometimes, but genuinely before every single flush. Research in the American Journal of Infection Control found closing the lid cut surrounding surface contamination by over 50%. The second habit is storage, because toothbrushes in Japan live inside closed cabinets, safely away from the toilet plume range. Tonight, close the lid before flushing and move your toothbrush inside a cabinet. Two tiny actions taking under 3 seconds. Habit number 3 will feel deeply personal because it touches something most Western people proudly consider one of their cleanest. It is the bath, that warm and relaxing ritual you trust completely to leave you feeling fresh, clean, and renewed. In most Western homes, you fill the tub, climb inside, and wash your entire body in the very same water. The water carrying everything you scrub off your skin stays right there in the tub with you the whole time. So you sit and soak inside a slowly cooling soup of your own sweat, dead skin, oil, and daily grime. When you finally pull the drain, the uncomfortable truth is that you have been quietly marinating in all of it. In Japan, the bath works in a completely different order, and that difference is not decorative, it is purely functional. You wash and rinse your entire body first, standing or sitting on a small stool beside the tub, completely clean. Using a handheld shower, you clean every part of yourself with soap, rinse it away, and only then step in. So the deep bath water stays perfectly clean when you enter it and remains clean throughout the entire relaxing soak. In many homes, it stays warm and is reused by the next family member without ever needing to be drained. Research in the British Journal of General Practice linked full immersion in clean, warm water to lower stress and cortisol. It also linked it to lower blood pressure, better mood, and measurably deeper and more restful sleep at night afterward. But the single most crucial word in all of that research is clean, because the water must stay genuinely clean. The Western bath is fundamentally a place to wash, while the Japanese ofuro is truly a place to restore yourself. Wash your body first, then soak second, and you finally turn your ordinary bath into something restful, clean, and healing. Habit number 4 is the one I warned you about, and it is honestly the hardest of all to accept. You wash your hands, you glance down, and you confidently decide they are clean and perfectly safe for the day. Then you touch your face, your food, and your phone all day with hands you fully believe are truly sanitary. But here is what almost nobody in the West has ever actually been told about how they wash their hands. The average hand washing time across the West is only about 6 short and rushed seconds, and that is being generous. 6 seconds, when the Centers for Disease Control clearly recommends a minimum of 20 seconds of active and real scrubbing. 20 full seconds of real scrubbing with soap to properly remove the bacteria and viruses most responsible for spreading illness. The classic benchmark is quietly singing the happy birthday song twice at a normal speed, which takes about 20 seconds. A study in the Journal of Environmental Health found only 5% of people wash long and thoroughly enough afterward, which means 95% walk away believing their hands are clean when they have not actually achieved that yet. Japan teaches a different approach inside its schools, a six-step method taught as national health curriculum since the 80s. Each step deliberately targets a specific part of the hand that people statistically miss during a quick and careless rinse. First, palm to palm, then the back of each hand, then fingers interlaced, scrubbing carefully in between every single finger, then the backs of the fingers, then each thumb rotated inside the opposite hand, and finally the fingertips and nails. The whole sequence takes roughly 20 to 30 seconds and becomes second nature to Japanese children very early in life. It is taught to them the same natural way the alphabet is taught to children growing up across the West. You do not need surgical training. You simply need 20 honest seconds and those six small, deliberate, and repeated steps. So tonight, just once, quietly count the seconds while you wash and notice what that honest number actually turns out. Habit number 5 happens in public spaces and causes the most visible discomfort for Japanese visitors abroad in Western countries. It is blowing your nose loudly and openly in public, at a table, in a meeting, or on a train. In Japan, this act is considered one of the least socially acceptable hygiene behaviors a person can perform in public. And it is not vague cultural politeness, it is about what is physically happening inside your body in that moment. When you blow your nose forcefully, you generate a genuinely enormous amount of pressure inside your delicate nasal passages instantly. Research in clinical infectious diseases found forceful nose blowing creates pressure roughly 100 times greater than coughing or sneezing, and that intense pressure can push nasal mucus upward and backward into your sinus cavities where infection had not reached. In other words, a hard, forceful blow can drive a small, local infection deeper into your own respiratory system directly. On top of that, the aerosol from blowing spreads outward, even through a tissue, especially when the blow is loud. Japan does the opposite, treating quiet, controlled sniffing as perfectly acceptable and genuinely the more hygienic choice in public spaces. If blowing truly becomes necessary, it is done privately, quietly, and as minimally as humanly possible, away from other people. This really isn't squeamishness or fragile manners. It is simple biology that the West somehow normalized away without questioning. The West made loud, forceful public nose blowing so ordinary that almost nobody ever paused to ask if it worked. It does not. And understanding that single fact alone changes how you hear a sound you notice almost everywhere daily. Habit number 6 lives inside your kitchen, and many Western home cooks proudly consider it a reassuring sign of cleanliness. It is washing raw chicken under the tap before cooking it, because rinsing off the surface simply feels responsibly hygienic. In the United Kingdom, a food agency survey found 44% of people regularly wash raw chicken before cooking. In the United States, health officials estimate the figure is strikingly similar, meaning millions repeat this exact ritual every week. People do it because removing that visible residue from raw poultry genuinely feels like a careful and sensible safety precaution. Japan does not do this, and the reason is the exact opposite of what ordinary Western kitchen intuition quietly suggests. When you rinse raw chicken, the running water instantly becomes contaminated with whatever bacteria were living on that raw surface. Most importantly, Campylobacter and Salmonella, the two organisms most commonly responsible for serious and genuinely miserable poultry-related food poisoning. And that contaminated water does not politely stay on the chicken because it splashes outward far more than you realize. Research from Drexel University found washing chicken creates a spray radius reaching up to 80 centimeters across your entire kitchen. It coats your counters, cutting boards, nearby utensils, the sink, and sometimes even your own clothing and hands with contamination. Meanwhile, the heat of proper cooking already destroys every single pathogen living on the surface of that chicken completely anyway. So the washing gains you nothing while spraying dangerous bacteria everywhere right before the heat would have killed them safely. Skip the rinse, pat it dry with a paper towel, bin the towel, wash your hands, and cook it thoroughly. And now, habit number 7. The one I promised would change how you think about being clean forever from now. This one is not about your bathroom or your kitchen. It is about something you carry with you everywhere daily. It is the object you touch more times each day than almost anything else you own in your entire life. It is your phone. The device pressed against your face, your pillow, your hands, and your meals every ordinary day. Research from a mobile firm called Disgust found people touch their phones an average of 2,000 times every day. You touch it before washing your hands, right after the bathroom, while cooking dinner, and while eating your evening meal. You set it on restaurant tables, public bathroom counters, gym equipment, and the dirty floor beside your yoga mat outside. Then you pick it right back up and press it warmly against the soft skin and membranes of your face. A London School of Hygiene study found roughly 1 in every mobile phone carries actual fecal bacteria on it. A University of Arizona study found phones carry 10 times more bacteria per square centimeter than an average toilet seat. Your phone, holding 10 times the bacteria of a toilet seat, pressed against your cheek during every single phone call, and resting quietly beside your face on the pillow through every night while you sleep peacefully and unaware of it. In Japan, hands are washed carefully before meals, after public contact, and consistently throughout the ordinary flow of the day. But beyond clean hands, Japan carries a constant quiet awareness of which surfaces are contaminated and which have been cleaned. That awareness creates a general consciousness about object contact that most Western people simply do not carry or think about. You cannot sterilize your phone after every touch, but you can clean it properly at least once every single day. And you can stop holding it against your face by using speaker mode or headphones during calls from now on. That single change closes the most direct route from the dirtiest object you own straight to your vulnerable facial membranes. So, there they are. 7 habits so normal and so standard that questioning them out loud almost sounds unreasonable now. Shoes carrying hundreds of thousands of bacteria dragged across every indoor surface where your family walks and lives every day. A single toilet flush throwing a hidden plume across your open toothbrush in well under 60 invisible and unnoticed seconds. A warm Western bath that quietly washes your body inside the very same water it is busy carrying everything away. 6 rushed seconds of hand washing that removes almost nothing your hands actually picked up throughout your long and busy day. Forceful public nose blowing that can push your own infection deeper into a respiratory system it had not yet reached. Chicken washing that sprays invisible Campylobacter across nearly 80 centimeters right before the heat would have simply killed everything anyway. And a phone holding 10 times the bacteria of a toilet seat pressed lovingly against your face all day long. Japan did not decide these habits were disgusting because it is somehow more sensitive or more fussy than everyone else. It called them unsanitary because it looked honestly and carefully at what they were actually doing and then chose differently. The genuinely good news is that every single one of these 7 habits has a simple and completely better alternative. And not one of them requires a renovation, a product, a program, or anything at all you do not own. Each one only asks you for a single decision, made once tonight and then quietly repeated every ordinary day afterward. So tonight, ask yourself just one honest question. Which of these 7 habits surprised you more than you first expected? Not the one you already knew, but the one that landed differently. Because that is the habit you will change.